G'day there guys, it's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. Now if you love today's content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and tell me what you think about it down in the comments below. Thank you. Posted by user Throw RA Sweet Kiddo. Titled, My 30 female friend 30 female is an a-hole to her son 4 male. So my friend and I have boys who are a few months apart. I thought she was a really wonderful mum, just a bit unsure of herself and definitely struggling with some mental health stuff, but she clearly put her kid first and tried her best, until our kids were about 2 and she started having an affair. The affair obviously broke up her marriage with a pretty decent guy. They weren't well suited for each other to begin with, but I don't have anything negative to say about him. Even she will tell you he's a great dad. So the guy she's having an affair with is an alcoholic. This led to her abusing alcohol and eventually me going deep down the rabbit hole with her. After a few hospitalizations and a year of complete hell, I'm now 3 weeks sober with the support of my husband. I know what it's like to parent while fighting alcoholism. It hasn't been great. I owe my kids a lot. That being said, I never abused them. I definitely ordered too many pizzas and forgot to do laundry, but I wasn't mean to them and regularly told on myself to my husband, mother-in-law, and amazing neighbor friend when I really needed help. I am telling you this because I really thought she was doing the same thing. That's how it seemed from our phone and Zoom conversations at least. It really seemed like she was trying and that her family was helping. That is not happening. In the past, she's told me that she thought her son was evil because he bit and punched her, and that he didn't love her. I suggested that she take him to a child psychologist and explain all that, because early intervention would be good if he did have some kind of issue. Her ex-husband said that this was unnecessary, and that she was just a mean drunk. I couldn't imagine that this would be true. Yesterday, I went over to her house with my son for the first time since quarantine started for her son's birthday. She started the day with a fifth of vodka and a huge fight with her boyfriend. Our other friend, who was there, called me for help, so I went over to let the kids play while I tried to cool her off. It was bad. She said all of these things to, or right next to her 4-year-old on his birthday. You're such a loser. He's just evil. Why is your son so much cuter, smarter, better? I wish my kid was good like your kid. You're bad. I kept trying to counteract everything she was saying to him by saying the opposite, like, well, kiddo, I think you're super cute, fun, smart, sweet, etc., and constantly complimenting everything he did and asking him for hugs. I told her several times that she was being an a-hole and that she cannot talk to her son like that because it's abusive. She just kept doing it. I took some videos which I'm considering sending to her ex-husband in a month when he returns home from military training. I'm not sure if I should tell her ahead of time that she needs to dry out and go to therapy, or I'll do this, or what. I wanted to just take the kid home with me, but she wouldn't let me, and I don't want to get charged with kidnapping. What do I do? What is the right way to handle this? Should I try to get more videos to show that it definitely wasn't just this one day? The one day is all I've seen, but now I'm putting all the evidence together, and I seriously suspect this is every day for this baby. Called Child Protective Services. That's it. Report her. She's trash. I don't think they can do anything about emotional abuse. He's not beaten and has a gorgeous room full of every toy you could want. He's clean and well fed. You can tell them what you saw and heard. If she's a drinker, they'll pick up on it. Failing that, you can be a cool auntie to him, but don't destroy yourself and your own progress. I was led here by your other post, but I wanted to express how happy I am you quit drinking. I grew up with a functional alcoholic father, and it definitely affected how I interact with the world and with other people. Have you looked into any help for your kids? I was involved in Alateen as a child, and Al-Anon as an adult, which has helped me understand my resentments and misunderstandings around alcoholism in my family. I recommend taking a look at r/l anon and r/adult children to see if there's any info there that you can use to help yourself and your children get over the emotional impact of an alcoholic parent and alcoholic best friend. Kids see a lot more than they say. I wish you the best of luck on your journey. Thank you so much. I quit in July and have been doing really well, but I decided I'd like to do an IOP, so I found a great virtual one that I start next week. We're working on finding a therapist who is a good fit for one of my older boys. His brother is hesitant to go talk to a stranger, but we remind him the option is open. I really hope I can give my kids everything they need to work on stuff now so that they don't have to do it alone as adults and go through what I went through. I want to end this bullcrap cycle. The past couple of weeks of sobriety have been full of stuff that, while hard, makes me grateful I was finally able to stop. Update. No one was waiting for an update on this, but I've learned a lot, and I just want to put this all out there in case someone else is ever in a similar situation. After my last post, I told her family everything, and had a few honest conversations with her where I didn't sugarcoat anything. She completely understood, told me I was her best friend, and stopped drinking. I really wish the update ended there. Unfortunately, her boyfriend came home from a several-month stay in another state, and things went off the rails again. She called me several times a day, always drunk and panicked. They'd fight, he slapped her once, they smoked crack. She told me about how her son punches her, kicks her, and spits at her. He was abusive to an animal. Every time we were on the phone, the kid would try to talk to her and wanted to FaceTime with me, but she'd yell at him frequently and tell him whatever he wanted to talk about was dumb and no one wanted to hear it. I have kids too, and there has been many times they wanted to tell me something ridiculous while I'm trying to have an adult conversation, but I kept telling her this is not how you handle that. I actually guided her through interacting with her son. I offered to take her son for a few days so she could get a break. I begged her to stop drinking. I tried to get her to go to therapy. I tried to get her to let her son stay with her parents or her ex-husband for a while. She did nothing but call me several times a day, every day, drunk and with the same problems. I finally just dumped everything on my husband and my best friend, who were both mandatory reporters. They both told me that I was in an abusive friendship, and that they would be legally required to call CPS if I told them half the stuff I did. They told me that the kid was clearly in danger and already suffering emotionally. They told me that if we did not contact CPS, that we would all be responsible if something happened to him. I decided to call. A social worker came out 2 days later. My now former friend decided it was me. I told her it wasn't because I was scared. She told me that I ruined her life and then threatened to call CPS on me. Luckily, I have all of that in text. The friendship is over, and I'm really upset that it came to this, but I'm also relieved that I'm no longer socially responsible for their lives. I'm not sure what to do next, as her boyfriend has hinted at having criminal connections and being able to have people killed. He is very powerful, but I'm not sure he's that powerful. Anyway, if you've read all this and have codependent tendencies, I just want you to look at how bad things can get, even when I was available for every call and put up with every drama and overlooked my own sanity to try to fix her life. I should have ended this friendship a long time ago and demanded action from her family. Trustful Comet 40 says, "The thing is, Child Protective Services aren't going to intervene unless it's necessary to protect the child. If she ends up losing custody of her little boy, that is not on you. You've done the right thing here, even though it might not feel like it. If it helps any, this internet stranger is proud of you for acting to protect that child. Give yourself time to grieve the friendship that you've lost. It's always hard to lose a friend. This situation doesn't necessarily make that any different. Go easy on yourself for a while. But remind yourself that you'll feel okay again in time, because you will." Yup, sadly they aren't likely to really do anything. My youngest's dad was verbally abusive to all of us. neglecting our son to the point of injury, and being horrible to my older 3 kids. Locked my oldest outside with no jacket or shoes when it was 27 degrees out, and they really didn't do anything except say he couldn't be alone with the kids and had to take parenting classes. And not doing anything different, and despite being told by multiple times that he was lying, she took his word for it, and never verified with the people she was supposed to that would have proven he was lying. He was asked multiple times in front of the police and social workers to get out of the house, and still he stayed. A few weeks after CPS got involved, he started assaulting me in my sleep. It was at that point I had to wait for him to leave one night for work, packed my car with as much as I could, took the kids, and ran. No one was going to help us, so I had to do what I had to do. More often than not, CPS has the opportunity to prevent things from escalating to the point of no return, and they blow it because there's always another case that needs the attention more. If things got addressed before getting to that point, there wouldn't be so many kids who end up dead. The whole system really is so inefficient. Posted by user BrianI305, titled, "How do I convince my wife that having a 3rd kid is the very last thing we need?" Hi guys, a little backstory before I get started. My wife and I have been together for 5 years, and we've been married for 2. I have a 6-year-old from a previous marriage who I absolutely adore. He spends a little over 1/3 of his time with us, and the rest he spends with his mum. Wife and I have just had our first child, another little boy. When my ex and I were discussing children, we readily agreed that we would be one and done. When we separated, I had every intention of keeping it that way. But I met my wife, very quickly thanks to the universe, and I began to reconsider indefinite bachelor status. Throughout our relationship, my wife had expressed her desire to become a mum. At first, I was put off because honestly, I was just here for the fun times. But as the months wore on and I found myself falling in love with her, I decided that it wouldn't be so bad to have another kid. She wanted a girl, and eventually so did I. She always hinted that she might not be a one and done, like my ex and I solidly were. Each time it came up, I made sure to voice my stance that I was not interested in being a father of 3. The joke was that if I gave her a girl, that it would be easier for me to back her down on that topic. But I was always clear, 3 kids was too much for me. So let's time out here so I can get out why it is that I don't want to travel down this road. I am the middle child of a set of 3 kids. My older brother has 3 kids, my younger brother has 3 kids. There's a lot of love to go around, but there's also a lot of stress. Each of those kids is a person that deserves love and attention to grow properly. I firmly believe that the more kids you have, the more you have to work to address that. Of course, attention can be hard if you're picking up extra hours at work or taking another job just to put food on the table for them. And naturally, that also comes with exhaustion and irritability. So even in your free time, you're not all there. I see it in my brothers, and I experienced it firsthand. Not too long ago, as my mum played cards with Six in his room, she looked up at me sitting on the bed and asked me, "I didn't really do this with you guys, did I?" And she looked so sad when she asked. I told her it was okay, she was busy making sure we had food on the table and toys to play with. But it made me even more determined than ever not to travel down the same path. I have always tried to take what was good about my parents' parenting style and make improvements where I thought maybe they could do better. I think that's the point of being a parent, doing one better than your folks, so that your kids can do better than you, and so on. My dad was too busy working to spend much time with us, and as a result, we don't share many interests in common. So I have made it a point of being as ever-present as I can be, playing with Six, teaching him, reading to him, watching my favorite movies and shows with him. Between myself and his mums, we've turned him into this really intelligent, empathetic, sweet kid. I want to gift that same level of attention to my new boy. And while Six was raised as an only child, Newbie will only be living as a sibling part of the time. so I feel I can devote more or less the same considerable time and energy to raising newbie that I did for 6. I had hoped, first, that we would birth a girl, therefore making the joke referred to above a reality. Then I hoped that a few months of taking care of an infant, an entirely new experience for my wife, would wake her up to the reality of true parenthood. But here we are, coming up on month 3, and she's sure as ever that she wants another one, chasing a daughter that's never sure to come. Wife has been back to work only 1 day, so there is a small hope that maybe in a couple of weeks she realizes what I've been trying to tell her for years. But at this point, I'm not holding my breath. She's a stubborn gal, one of the reasons I fell for her. Wife is usually a pretty reasonable woman, if a little prideful. She's always been the most responsible one of us, reminding me to check bank accounts and pay bills and go to the doctors and all of that. So for her to not realize the scope of what she's asking is disheartening. You see, we're not rich. We're doing okay and we make enough to be comfortable and do and buy and enjoyable things here and there. We live in a 3-bedroom house with a den. 1 guest room is 6's, 1 guest room is newbies. The den we made into a guest bedroom for friends and, crucially, overnight stays from our mothers who have volunteered to occasionally watch newbie during the 2-hour gap between the time I leave for work and the time she arrives home from it. She works overnights 3 nights out of the week. I work 5 days. So let's put cost of a 3rd child aside for a moment. Right now, a 3rd child wouldn't put us out so much, as we could always have the little ones share newbie's current room. But as they grow older and bigger, they're gonna need more room. That means our small little den would have to be converted into a bedroom, or, impossibly, they would have to double up. Our house is spacious, for the 3.5 people who live there, but adding another member significantly encroaches on the space we have. Now, the cost. Oh, the fudging cost. Right now, it's not so bad because 6 started public school and I don't pay traditional child support. X and I are on good terms, and I just pay half of his insurance, extracurriculars, and medical visits. And we have a lot of toys and baby supplies from our gigantic family and friend pool. But when those run out or need upgrading and we finally put newbie into daycare, the cost of that kid is going to skyrocket. Not to mention the hospital bills from our extended stay in the delivery room. That's another story for another time. If it was up to her, another baby would be coming soon. Like next year soon. More on that in a sec. So, along with the rising cost of newbie, she wants to add on to the whole financial affair with another one who will follow the same trajectory. Under our current fiscal conditions, which are unlikely to change very favorably in the near enough future, I think we'd be heading into a dire situation. Maybe not right away, but it'd be an inevitability. Best case scenario, we'd be living paycheck to paycheck again, barely making ends meet and not having enough money left over each month to save for doing fun things, like going to Disney or renting a cabin up north. We would be losing our disposable income unless, of course, one of us gets an extra job or works extra shifts, which leads into the problem I mentioned above, a shortening of the time we have with our 2 existing boys. Then, of course, I worry about our marriage. The stress of raising 3 children, the time, the energy, the money worries. All of that can strain even a great relationship. My parents weathered the storm, but neither of my brothers could, and I do not want to be a twice divorcee. I love my wife heart and soul, but there's a toll to be taken where we lose who we are because we're giving so much to the kids. It's important to spend time one-on-one with your spouse so you remember how to be a husband and wife and not just mummy and daddy. We are both very devoted to the boys, but with 1 full-time kid and 1 part-time, I see us making time enough for each other that we don't have to rediscover one another when they leave the nest in 18 years. Add another kid and, well, the problem becomes exponentially greater. There is less space for downtime, for individual time, for together time. I value my alone time, and I've come to grips with having to sacrifice it for a full-time baby. But as I struggle with these constant nighttime feedings, distended stomachs, and general anarchy that comes with a newborn, the one hope I latch onto is that I'm giving him my all. I cannot say that, literally, if I have another child. 6 is old enough to want to help and play with his baby brother, but if we have another baby right now, with all the work it takes to just keep newbie alive and happy, I won't be able to give him the attention he deserves when he's a toddler. It's impossible. I know people have 3 kids back to back in some cases, and I cannot even imagine that stress. But I'm not those people. Everyone is different. I don't thrive under stressful conditions. I've learned how to overcome, how to adapt, and how to survive them. But I'm not built for it. My best work does not occur during those times, and I firmly believe my children deserve my best. I don't want to half-ass my parenting just to survive the day. I worked hard on 6. I intend to work just as hard on newbie, and I can't do that if there's another baby who deserves the same things. I have told my wife all these things. I have tried to explain them in a way that makes sense to her. She keeps bringing up how everyone thinks we should have a 3rd kid, but those people don't have to raise them. They just want to see what a daughter of ours would look like. I'm a Latino, and she's a redhead, so honestly, we're all a little curious. I hold my ground every time, and it's been tense banter every once in a while when a relative or friend brings it up. But I can sense that we're reaching a critical point in that discussion. Neither of us is backing down, but in the end, one of us has to for our marriage to survive, right? I don't want to lose her over this. I love her and I want to be with her. It's why I dropped bachelor mode when she stuck around and didn't get scared off by more nerdy inclinations. But I'm terrified she's gonna ultimatum me. I don't like the idea of being forced into something that makes me anxious, a feeling I actively avoid, and I like even less that both options seem to lead down the same path. One way or another, my marriage is gonna be thrown against the rocks. I know, some of you are just gonna say that's every marriage, but I don't want to steer the ship into the clearly labeled shallows. So what do I do? See a counselor? Wait and see if another few weeks of working and caring for newbie becomes the thing that she needs to see my side? Accept that resistance is futile, and that I'm gonna be a stressed older dad for another 20 years. Talk to me, Reddit. Papa Bear 345 says, "This big essay you wrote asking for advice when you already know what you want. Give it to your wife to read and talk about it." You might seek couples counseling. You shouldn't swallow your feelings just to make her happy because it will sour your marriage. If you really don't want 3, then that's how it is. She should wait a bit longer to decide. Kids need a lot of time and attention, as I'm sure you know. Also, the economy is in shambles and the world is overpopulated. You have a lot of valid reasons that have nothing to do with your stance, though that should be enough. I was the oldest of 3 and swore I'd never have 3. When doctors said we couldn't have kids, we adopted a 5-year-old special needs daughter. She had been through a lot and has mental challenges. 5 years later, I felt awful and was diagnosed with diabetes. Doc missed my pregnancy, which we figured out 11 weeks before she was born. They called her a biological fluke and said that it would be impossible to have another successful pregnancy. Husband didn't even want another, but he believed the doctors and agreed to try. Oldest daughter is now 36, married and disabled. Miss Fluke is 27, married and a teacher. Mr. Impossible is 25, engaged, a massage therapist. It was extremely difficult. I worked full-time from home, homeschooled all 3. Husband took over after work and did field trips. Financially, it wasn't easy, but we managed. I would point out to your wife that there should be at least 2 years between pregnancies, that you'll be willing to consider it seriously in a stronger financial position 2 years from now. Remember, her hormones will be out of whack for a while. Be gentle. You're a true saint. Bless you. I don't know that I've much factored in her hormones in these post-newborn days, but thank you for reminding me that they're still a real presence. I'll be more mindful of them in the coming weeks. Updates. I'm just going to get down to it. I've been ultimatumed. She mentioned going to counseling but doesn't seem to think it would help, and honestly, I think she's right. There's nothing to say to some third party that's going to change either of our minds. She has her heart set on another child, and no amount of reasonable discourse is going to get her to relent. This isn't a logical decision, it's purely based on emotion. She's always wanted 2 babies from her own body, and she's so stubborn that there is nothing beyond that. We had a serious conversation not long after I posted the first time, and I felt that maybe I had made some headway. I came away with the impression that if she couldn't have another child, that we would be okay, that we wouldn't divorce or break up, that I wouldn't be given any ultimatums. Our afternoon today, however, went from familial bliss to rocky AF in less than 2 minutes. I can't even remember what caused us, just seconds earlier having been all lovey-dovey, to suddenly being caught in this conversation again. She said things like, if I wouldn't give her a baby, she'd find someone who could. I told her that she had 2 kids already, even if one didn't come from her own body. She said it wasn't the same, which I understand, but I asked her why their love wasn't enough for her, and why she didn't think of my eldest's love was good enough. I told her that if she was willing to divorce me over not wanting a baby, even after I had never lied to her about my intentions, then she didn't love me the way I thought she did, and that I felt like I had been used for the express purpose of making mixed-race babies. I got heated, and when she tried to give my eldest his milk, I did, and said something I regret. I snatched it out of her hands and muttered, "I'll do it. He's not your kid." I could almost hear her heart break as she stammered out that that's not what she meant, before her anger got the better of her and she stormed out of the kitchen. I instantly regretted my words. As I stood there, leaning over a sink filled with dirty dishes, I realized how incredibly screwed I was. It hit me like a freight train. Even now, hours later, laying on my guest room bed while she texts me to come to bed, I can feel the bone crush of that epiphany. No matter what happens, I won't have the life I envisioned. I don't want the burden of a third child, but it beats the alternative. The life of a 30-something, twice-divorced nobody with 2 baby mamas. So that's it, guys. I'm royally boned. I'm gonna have a 3rd kid. I gave in and told her as much about half an hour ago. I once again voiced my misgivings, being as reasonable and calculating as possible, but she still left the room saying, I don't want to have a baby with someone that doesn't want one. I'm crushed. I got backed into a corner, and now, like a scared animal, I'm panicking. It hurts that she's willing to throw her life away for a hypothetical 3rd child, that I didn't mean as much to her as I thought I did. But I'm willing to handle the disappointment of this change because I don't want her to resent me for never doing it, if she even decides to stay with me. I don't know. I mean, I do know what I'm going to do. It just makes my soul ache and my anxiety grow. I'm going to love unconditionally another kid. But I don't want to have to, if that makes sense. My 2 boys are all I need as a dad. God, someone help me feel better, because I'm actually crying over here. Edit. Due to a few of the responses, which I wish I could get to individually, but I work full-time in a labor-intensive job, so I only have a few minutes here and there to read and/or respond. I want to make something overtly clear. We did not have this fuss particularly loudly or in front of the eldest, who was playing in his bedroom at the time. Both my ex and my current wife have made it a point not to have arguments in front of the kids because we always want to provide a unified team and also not expose them to the burdens that aren't theirs to share. Freddie Hill 28 says, Hey OP, from the first post and this post, it seems like she wants a girl and not another child. Have you asked her what happens if the next one is a boy? Does she keep wanting more children? You could be having this argument again in 2 years' time. Lol, my thought. Surprise, a 3rd boy. Congrats. This is what happened to my sister. She wanted a daughter so bad she ended up with 4 sons. Don't get me wrong, she's a wonderful mum and is happy with anything, but she wanted to keep trying for a girl. She should have known though. Her husband has 3 brothers. You've both moved positions under incredible, stupidly applied, no-holds-barred pressure. Get counselling now. Do not pass go. See a professional to sort it out as even-handed a way as possible. You two don't need divorce, at least not yet. You do need a referee. Go to therapy, if not marriage counselling, then for yourself. Do not have a child that you do not want, that F's over you, your existing children, and the new child. Because yes, you will love that child, but you will also resent it, and you will resent your wife for forcing you into it, and because of that resentment, you will still end up twice divorced, but with 1 extra child in the mix, and probably 5 years older. Don't be stupid. Tell her it's a no, will stay a no, and if she chooses to divorce you, then she is also stupid because she will then have to try to manage dating to marry and procreate on top of being a divorced mum. As much as I want to agree with putting his foot down, I'm not so sure about it. He said that he was scared of being 2 times divorced and having 2 children. That's a lot of work, even if he is alone. I absolutely see why the decision to leave is difficult, and why it might be better to compromise on this. I would say, OP, think about what you're afraid of. Are you afraid of being lonely? Are you afraid of being outcast? Of having children that will hate you for breaking up or divorcing? Or are you afraid that your friends will treat you differently? What exactly are you afraid of? Being afraid of being divorced with children is a very vague way to phrase your fear. Being twice divorced is better than having a child you resent and being stuck in a marriage that you resent. With a 3rd child, you literally have all of those extra expenses that you talked about. Being twice divorced with only 2 kids means you still have money and can properly care for your children. Don't have a 3rd kid if you don't want it. That doesn't do anyone good. Alright, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video, guys. I do hope you enjoyed it. As always, I want to do a huge shout out to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. You should be up on the screen now. I love you all, and I think every single one of you are amazing for supporting the channel in the way that you do. Again, thank you so much for supporting me. And again, if you did enjoy today's video, please do tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. All of your hot takes, opinions, whatever you think, really, whatever's going on in your life right now, I'd love to hear down in the comments below. Before I leave, I'd also like to announce that I'm going to start doing meme content again on the 2nd channel. I know it's been a while, so click on the Markee head on the screen without the Australian flag behind him if you want to go see some memes. And as always, guys, have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.